Hello and welcome to Sip of Sunshine episode 8. My name is Kat and I'm your host. Joining me today we have Lindsay and Gabby. With both having a strong background in education, we're going to be discussing SEN training and its shortfalls in schools, communication between parents and teachers, plus addressing the school fine situation and debunking some myths. So if you're ready, let's get started.
Hello, Gabby and Lindsay, and welcome to Sip of Sunshine. How are we today?
Hello, all good.
Hi, Kat. All good.
Yeah,
now,
all good.
The first time, so there's probably a few nerves there, but I promise just to chat, just really relax, just, go with the flow. So, Lindsay, do you want to tell us a little bit about what you do at Sunshine?
Yeah, I can do. So I'm Sunshine Support's education consultant. So my role is to try and engage with schools and offer support directly to schools, work with parents as an advocate when they're engaging with schools. Yeah, that's what I do.
And Gabby, do you want to tell us a little bit about what you do as well?
I'm a SEN advocate and came from a background of being a SENCO and a language provision teacher, and before that, which feels like forever ago, a nursery teacher. But I don't think I could do that now. They're too small. I'd trip over.
Small little gremlins. I've got a couple of those in my house. If there's any background noise, I apologise. They don't really know how to be quiet, and nor should they. So it's exploring and learning.
Yeah.
So I've got two people from an education background, which makes me very, very happy, because we've noticed quite a lot of the time parents come to us and ask about SEN training in schools.
Shortfalls in SEN training.
And how it isn't really where it should be. And I think the gaps in that are being noticed more and more. So between the two of you, I would like to have a little bit of a discussion about what the shortfalls in SEN training are within schools.
Lindsay, do you want to go first, or do you want me to go?
Well, I'll sort of mention the elephant in the room, which is money. is a good place to start.
Yeah.
So there's a definite shortfall there. I think that is ultimately the root of the problem, is that there isn't enough money, and there isn't enough time for the catch up that schools need in terms of SEN training.
Yeah, it's a funny one, isn't it? Having sort of worked in schools and being a SENCO and a teacher, and I do agree that to bring in sort of outside training does cost money, and that is a real it's a really difficult one. However, I would also, thinking from the perspective of a SEN trained teacher, the school that I worked in, we had an in-house specialist provision, and we had a specialist teacher who was trained. That was me. And then we also had a speech and language therapist that worked in the school, and yet we were never invited to offer training. And I think a lot of the problem in schools is that there is a lot of expertise and they don't tap into it, because I don't know what that reason is. I would love to be able to say why, but it just doesn't happen. There are a lot of talented teachers out there, and a lot of talented and very knowledgeable teachers out there. I don't know if it comes from, this might be a very controversial point, and Lindsay, you can probably sort of jump in on this one, but I think schools are still traditionally quite hierarchical. And you have a senior leadership team, then you have middle management, then you have just teachers. And I think we're missing a trick. Because it was always SLT that delivered, SLT, senior leadership team, but it was always SLT that delivered training. And it was never, you're a parent of a neurodiverse child, can you come and give us your perspective on, from a parental perspective, we had a huge range of very knowledgeable parents as well that we could have drawn upon to come and help us with training. But teacher parent, is that a hierarchical thing? I don't know. I've probably just asked more questions than I answered.
Yeah, and I think often the staff in school that do have a lot of knowledge to draw upon are a SEND parent themselves, so their knowledge is potentially lived experience of SEND, or they've potentially they've invested that time themselves. You know, they've gone outside of the school day and their working day to find out more information and to engage, you know, even just engaging on social media to grow your own knowledge of things. I don't know about the hierarchy. I would imagine that could potentially be an issue. You know, it wasn't in the school that I led. You know, I was really grateful if somebody was happy to do a staff meeting. I think sometimes it's choosing the right person and whether they're confident enough to do that. And it is finding the time. You know, you're allocated sort of an hour every week for staff training, and there's so much to fit within that time. You're talking about 39 hours in the school year from each of the school weeks, and a lot to get through, and some of the regular stuff that you have to fit in every term. But you know, it's absolutely, there's a place for SEND to be on that agenda as well in terms of CPD, because we've got so much to learn.
I agree, and I think again my frustration as an ex-SENCO was that we would do lots of work, you know, on English and maths and the things that you probably really focusing on from your Ofsted inspections or your school improvement plans and things like that. But actually, I always used to say to people, it is a bit like teaching when you're trying to teach English and history. Combine them, be creative. And I always used to say this about staff training: be creative. If you're doing English moderation, look at SEN as well. If you're doing, if you're looking at maths and you're looking at practical resources, incorporate SEN as well. You know, incorporate that. If you're looking at English, incorporate SEN. The other thing I think that schools can find difficult is utilising their English lead or their maths lead. Now, the school I was in was incredible because we had our maths coordinator was actually our deputy head, and she was also part of the welfare team, so she was the safeguarding lead, but I shared an office with her, and we would always collaborate on this kind of thing, where she would say, well, I'm delivering a staff meeting tonight on maths and using concrete resources. Gabby, right, talk to me about such and such and such and such, and then she would incorporate that into her staff meeting. And I think it's the same, isn't it? It's the same for history, for geography, for art. You know, think about SEN from an art perspective. What if you've got a child who needs additional resources because they've got like physical needs or sensory needs and they don't want to touch the paint and things? Incorporate it into your art CPD. Or I just think that we're really missing a trick, and we not only need to upskill those people in SRT, like our sort of welfare teams and our coordinators for maths and English, but also, as we were talking about, those middle managers. And I don't know, I think we're really not tapping into a skill set there, which is a shame. It really is.
Yeah, I think you're totally right there. I think the historical way of organising responsibilities across a staff team in school was that everybody took a subject, and that sort of pigeonholed people into that's your area. And I know personally we spent a long time trying to think of a different way of leading across school, and we developed teams where you'd got perhaps somebody from each year group within a team, so you always had your early years input, and you had that balanced with year 2 and year 6 across the teams. But then unfortunately the inspection framework has pushed that to one side again, and because of the way the inspectorate are inspecting schools and expecting to speak to a history coordinator, a science coordinator, you've kind of taken away that creative opportunity to look at leadership from within the school structure and put people back into those boxes. And I think you're absolutely right. If you had a group of people who collaborated on staff training, you'd get that balanced approach perhaps, and then, you know, potentially that send voice within that group of people as well.
Looking for expert guidance in the world of special educational needs and disabilities? Send. Sunshine Academy is your one-stop solution. Gain access to a wealth of knowledge through webinars covering topics like autism and dyslexia, along with tailored learning resources, all for just $10.99 a month. Empower yourself today with Sunshine Academy and take the first step towards a brighter future.
Schools that are more open to thinking outside of the box might be prepared to, say, not meet for 2 weeks and then meet together for a longer time on the third week. But I think I would say most schools see that sort of staff meeting as a regular check-in with staff. So it's and an hour isn't long enough, really, not to get your teeth into something, you know, a really big topic. You're going to be pushed on time. But again, it's that balance between, you want to see your staff regularly, because teachers are very busy. Some of them nowadays don't even go into the staff room to eat their lunch. They're sat in their classrooms, you know, catching up with marking or doing their own planning and preparation. So the idea of pulling a staff together, actually, that is the time that happens within school. So a school leader might want that on a regular basis, but it's detrimental to the depth in which you can actually do a piece of CPD. And again, it's having that confidence to be flexible, I suppose, in your approach. And the idea that, you know, when you upskill a whole staff to work in a particular way, to be better SEN aware in their practice, that's going to impact on every child in the school. It's not just going to impact on the SEN children. It can only be positive experience for everybody in the school.
Definitely. And there are so many resources out there that you can draw upon. In a couple of local authorities that I've worked in, but they all local authorities work very differently, but you often have like SLAs, so service level agreements with various services, so with the behaviour support service, with the autism outreach team, whatever they're called in your particular area. And often you can ask those people to come in and deliver training as well. So that's always helpful. But I don't know about you, Lindsay, but we used to have like a training plan. So we knew what our focus was going to be for each term. And the head would always sort of send out a tick list saying who would like to deliver training. And, you know, I think it's about how you plan that. So yes, you might have, you know, 6 members of staff wanting to deliver training in one half term, but does it make more sense to have sort of a focus on SEN one term, maybe at the beginning of a school year when you've got new staff starting, and ask your coordinators to come in and deliver training on how SEN will be delivered through history, through geography, through whatever it is, and group it together rather than sort of having sporadic, because sometimes it used to be quite sporadic for us. You know, we'd be doing moderation one week, and we'd be doing, I don't know, some new innovative thing that we were picking up that week, or and it never ever really felt to me like it flowed. And again, I think that's key, isn't it? Because as a staff, you know, I remember we did some training on cognitive load, and at the time I was thinking, this is what I've been telling you for ages. This is brilliant, right? We need to really focus on this. And then we were told to implement various things. And then when we got round to the second round of the training, it had all dropped off because it wasn't fresh in people's minds. And I think, again, is that down to the fact that you only get an hour a week and you've got so much to bring in? Or is it just down to, you know, we're trying to get everything, we're trying to cover everything, and we're perhaps not covering a few key things well. We're kind of covering too broad a range of things. I don't know. I mean, I've not been a school leader, so I don't know what the challenges are around that, but as a SENCO, that's what I could see from the outside.
Yeah, it's that sort of tick box approach, isn't it? You know, we've done that, but you need to allow people to embed what you're asking them to do. You need to revisit it. You need to give people a chance to go away and process that in their own time as well, and perhaps actually allocate some time to go and do some further research, or to see how, you know, it's being implemented
Communication
in other
between parents and
classrooms.
schools.
So communication between parents and schools, I know it can sometimes be a little bit rocky, and it can be one of those things where on either side it can break down a little bit. But if you've got good communication between yourselves as a school and a parent, it makes such an easier time for the child. What sort of top tips would you both give, having seen it from both sides, from Sunshine's point of view and from schools? What would your top tips be for communicating with parents?
Okay, you can edit this pause out. Probably, I think definitely. I think it's something that Lindsay said earlier, but something that I've experienced as well is don't go in thinking that you are the expert or that you need to be. Sometimes I think teachers are trained to talk and we don't listen, and guilty, we all do it. And I think that is really key, is be prepared to listen.
Yeah, that's a great point. Mine would be do the groundwork. And I think if you have put in the time and effort to build relationships with all of the parents of the children in your class, and we're not talking about investing huge amounts of time or doing coffee mornings or anything like that. Just be at the classroom door in the morning, greet them and their child, have a little bit of banter and friendliness, and I think anything then that happens afterwards, any difficult or awkward conversations that you have to have with a parent, is so much easier when they kind of get you and you get them. And having a positive relationship builds trust, it makes people feel valued. And then when you do have to talk to somebody, perhaps you've noticed a SEN presentation in their child, it's going to be easier. That's my tip.
I think they're really important. So I've been on both sides of the coin with this. I've had a school that have had awful communication skills, and anytime I needed to hear about, I'll say an issue because that's how they worded it, or a problem within the school with my child, it would come from somebody else. It wouldn't come from the person who'd noticed it or had written it down. It would come from an admin staff member. And I always felt like, but if that person can't take the time to talk to me personally about it, then it can't be that much of an issue, and it would always be watered down. Whereas one of my younger ones is currently looking maybe at having a dyspraxia diagnosis. We're just waiting for that to go through, and the school brought me in with the class teacher, sat me down, had a good conversation of, here's all the reasons why we think this, here's all the ways we can support, but we would advise you taking them to the GP to start with. And I really valued that, because I could tell, it was a difficult conversation from their side, because they really did care about my child's learning, and two, it was written in such a nice, concise way on a piece of paper, a typed out piece of paper, that I had that then to go away and process. And I remember leaving that meeting thinking, oh my gosh, this is the most fantastic way I've had of having something like that communicated to me. And I think as a parent, the value in that is incredible.
Yeah, that's really, that sort of brings up something else as well. I mean, it's communication, but it's not about telling somebody something, but keeping really accurate minutes of meetings that you have with parents as well, and giving them a copy, so that everyone's really clear, so communication is clear. I think that's really important as well. But I think another thing as well is having been under many heads, I had a head who did not like us, because I live in an area where they've got a very colloquial accent. It's not the same as mine, but he was very much, you have to sound very professional. You've got to use the proper vocabulary. We don't want you using local words and things like that. And actually, as a teacher, you are you're equal. You're on an equal footing with parents, and I think they need to know that you are not a teacher who is unapproachable. And I think sometimes the way you are as a person, as a teacher, can come across as being you get that professional barrier almost. So if you're talking to parents and you're having a moment where you can't find the word you're looking for, tell them, oh gosh, I'm having a word find moment, give me a second. Or if you are if you say, I genuinely don't know the answer to your question there, or just having a chat about general things as well. I think just make people realise that you are human, and that you are not unapproachable. So I think it's funny, as a sunshine advocate, if I ever have to go into my child's school, I find it really difficult, because even though I've been a SENCO and things, it's like I've got to communicate with this person, and I just get this real sense of fear going in through the door. The head's absolutely lovely, he's the nicest person, and I've worked with him on a professional level as well, yet I get really nervous when I have to go and talk to him because he's a head teacher. It's very strange.
That's a really good point, because one of the things that I always used to remind myself of when talking to parents is you don't know what that person's experience of school is. They might not have stepped into a school since they were at school themselves, and you certainly don't know what that experience was like for them. So they may already be coming with a certain amount of anxiety, just about being back in a school building. And I think, again, having an open and honest conversation with people and having put time in to build relationships, you can certainly have a far more productive dialogue with somebody when you remember that, and you don't see yourself as top of the hierarchy, or more important than anybody else.
So we're sort of, I think in conclusion, we just said, just be normal.
Be normal. Be normal. And I think the other thing you said, Kat, was I bet you feel like the door has been left open on that conversation because of the way that it was carried out. And sometimes conversations with teachers and school leaders can feel like, and that's the end of it. Whereas, am I right? You feel...
Absolutely. And she's moved on to the next year now. So that was nursery, more of a nursery setting. She moved on into proper school now, big school as she calls it, even though they're all so tiny. It's not big school. But her old class teacher still will be like, oh, have you got any further within the process? How's she doing? How's her coordination now? And has a little laugh with me that, bless her, she still bumps into everything going. She's always covered in bruises, bless her. But it's really lovely, because I really genuinely feel and felt like they cared about her learning journey. And as a result, I was instantly like, well, what can we do at home to help her with that? How can we work together to create an environment that she's thriving in? And it was really, really lovely. And I've got 5 children. It's not been that with any of the other ones. So for me, it felt a little bit out of the norm. And I was like, but I wish that every parent was getting this, because it was really a beautiful experience out of something that should have been really difficult. Mm-hmm. We'd also noticed as well that she was quite clumsy. So it wasn't out of the blue for us. It was just kind of one of those things where we were like, oh, you've noticed it too. Thank goodness for that. But it was just really
school finds and myths.
So I'll move on to our final subject before I have to let you go, because I know that we're all super, super busy today. School fines. This one could get a little bit ranty. So as most of us parents have had a lovely email drop into our email inbox this week, school fines are increasing, and the amount of days that they can be unauthorised is decreasing. So it's going to cause quite a lot of people to get anxious, I think, about if they've got a child who has SEN needs. My son regularly needs to go and have his ears cleaned out and his hearing aids adjusted. Although authorised, they will only authorised for an afternoon or a morning. We have parking issue at our hospital at the moment, which means that it can take up to 4 hours sometimes for a routine 1 hour appointment. They've told me that won't be authorised, that it will be one or the other. So I felt that anxiety of, oh gosh, how awful. How has it been from your guys' side? Have you seen any of the other parents coming through having a little bit of a panic about it?
Absolutely, Kat, very much. Lots of people, actually not even through Sunshine, but I was at my daughter's gymnastics the other day, and one of the parents said, "Oh, I know you work in SEN. I'm really concerned because my daughter's autistic, and we always book a holiday for a week at a particular time of year at the same place, the same time, so it's all the same for her. We know that she knows it, she knows the people, etc. And now they're telling me that if I do that it will be marked on my DBS because she works within the local authority." I'm like, that's not true.
Oh,
They're not going
God.
to mark anything on your DBS. Absolutely not. Just the myths that are flying around at the moment are incredible, and that's what I've noticed. It's almost like when you start a rumour and the rumours get bigger and bigger. It feels as though that kind of thing's happening at the moment, and I think, I certainly think it's something that needs to be clarified, because ultimately the fines have changed, and the number of days that can be authorised, not can be, we need to be careful how we talk about this, but the number of days that are reported has decreased. However, it's still at the discretion of the head. So essentially, the law hasn't changed. There are still laws around providing suitable education for children who cannot attend due to reasons of mental health or ill health. That law still stands. And so does the 15 days cumulatively or consecutively. That still stands. So I think there's a lot of rumour flying around, and I think it's causing panic, and I think it's been designed, I'm cynical, but I think it's been designed deliberately to cause panic.
Yeah, I think it's another example of an improvement initiative that's based on punishment and shaming.
Yeah.
And I think that comes from the top. We have a system that's aimed at improving school attendance following COVID, but rather than really looking at the root causes and investing in education, investing in welfare staff in school, we're just going to punish the people, and not the right people either. When you have a blanket approach to this, it doesn't target the right people who really need the support, and people working with them to help their children back into education. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean back into school, back into education. We're just blanket across the whole parent population, and it's making everybody anxious about it. Parents who really want their children to learn, whether they're SEN parents or not, are feeling worried and guilty and concerned because of the rumours, but also because of the actual policy as well that is in place. I was in a situation as an infant head teacher where by October half term, the policy that was in my school was that every parent got an attendance letter.
Looking for expert guidance in the world of special educational needs and disabilities? Send. Sunshine Academy is your one-stop solution. Gain access to a wealth of knowledge through webinars covering topics like autism and dyslexia, along with tailored learning resources, all for just $10.99 a month. Empower yourself today with Sunshine Academy and take the first step towards a brighter future.
If your child's in reception and it's the first time they've entered a school environment and you've had chickenpox go around, they're already at a what would be deemed as an unacceptable amount of time absent from school. You know, you've got 75% of your reception children's parents all receiving a warning letter because, you know, they've potentially had a week off school out of only 6 weeks, and there's no room for using your professional judgment and a bit of common sense when policies are so pinned down, and you end up trying to explain to parents then, look, it's just a process that we have to go through. It doesn't really mean anything. And let's be honest, if you're having to have those conversations with parents, it means that ultimately there's something wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I think we need to be, again, very careful in the way we talk about it, because policies are just that. They're policies. They're not the law. They're policies. And we need to be stronger in schools. And we need to be saying, is this policy right? Because again, is it a herd mentality that we've got these policies in place, or does it take a brave school to say, we're not going to send these letters out because this doesn't mean anything? You know, do we need more bravery out there from schools and to re-look at this? Do schools need to start saying, well, actually, are we meeting everybody's needs appropriately? Is this why this is happening? You know, it's you've got to be reflective. You've got to be able to question yourselves, and, you know, be brave. You've got to be brave. Schools have got to be brave. Head teachers have got to be brave and say, you know, we need to rethink this because it's not working. What's the point in having a policy if it's not working? If you've got this attendance policy of sending out these letters by October half term, and then you get to Christmas and nothing's improved, it's not working. Or, you know, you're aware of that, so why not do the letters for reception, because you know that they're all going to get chicken pox at some point. You know, it's just like, you've got to be thinking about the fact that you're not allowed to apply a blanket policy. It's unlawful, because some children might not be able to attend for reasons of ill health, mental health, unmet need, and that would then stray into the Equalities Act, and we need to be incredibly careful. And soapbox, I'm going to step right off it now.
I think there's a lot of common sense needs to come into play.
Yeah.
You know, and the, you know, the conversations that schools have with parents whose children are struggling to attend are far more powerful than a piece of paper.
Yeah.
You know, and it should always start at the point of, what can we do to support you? What can we do to support this situation? Not threats, not fines, not law quoted to frighten people.
But we do need to quote the law. We need to frighten people. We need to frighten the policy makers and the decision makers, because let's get the working together to improve attendance guidance out. Let's get the Children and Families Act out. Let's get, you know, I had a recent meeting with a school, and the head did not know his own policy on medical needs. It was fascinating, because he eye-rolled me when I told him that it was 15 days cumulatively or consecutively that Section 19 kicked in. And he eye-rolled me and went, well, I don't think it's that. I think you're wrong, And then we emailed him and said, if you just take a little look at your policy, and I screenshotted the bit where it says it. And we got a very nice email back with an apology. But, you know, we've got to hold people to account. We've got to say, yes, there are laws on attendance, but there are also laws and very supporting laws where it's not working, and there's guidance out there that's really important. And I think that's the key, isn't it? I live not far from the Education Minister, Bridget Nielsen. So I might go and stand outside her door one day, just go, look, I've just come for a chat. Can we talk attendance? But yeah, this is my, you know, this is really my special interest, attendance, that DLD and pants pandas, as we know. But attendance is because I got it so wrong as a SENCO for a little while, not forever, but I got it very wrong, and I want to make up for that. And I think we've got to be very, very clear on the laws, not just the laws against parents, but the laws that support parents as well.
It'd be really interesting to see in a few years' time whether it has had any impact at all, because I don't think it will, without the support in place, without the investment in getting the right people in schools in positions where they can really offer support.
Yeah, and I think you're right, Lindsay. I think as well, we've got to look at mental health services. Schools are we are teachers. We are not mental health experts. We are teachers. We can't always do the work that local authorities, that head teachers, that the government want us to do around children's mental health. We are educators, and whilst mental health is incredibly important to us, there are people out there that are supposed to do that work and that are not able to, because of money or funding or government policy or whatever it is. But there are services out there that do that, and that needs to improve. I am feeling, Lindsay, you need to come up and stand on this soapbox outside.
I'm there.
I'm there. With me.
I've been bound by a ridiculous policy and not brave enough to burst out of it for various reasons.
Right, Kat, can we arrange to get me and Lindsay a couple of capes? Go and a leotard or something. We're going to go and stand.
Pants over our leggings.
Exactly. And we're going to go, placards outside Bridget's house.
Yeah. And I'm also going to put a note in the diary for in a few years' time to come back and revisit this conversation to see if things have changed, because I do think that's going to be really interesting.
Yeah,
especially after you've been stood on your soapbox outside.
We'll be in our leotards, because now you've said that, I'm going to get on the treadmill.
Well, I'll let you do that then.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining me today. As always, we switched it up a little bit as well, because I think we all raised some really important points there. So if anybody who is watching has anything that they want to say on that, or want to suggest a topic for us, please do so. You can do so on all of our social medias, or if you're watching this on the Academy, just hop onto the community and pop it in there and we'll take a look at it. So thank you, both of you. Enjoy the rest of your day and getting in shape for the leotards.
Thanks, Kat. Thanks. See you later.
See ya.
Bye. Bye.
As always, thanks for joining us for our chat today. If any of the topics raised are part of your SEN journey and you need some support, please do reach out to us. You can find us on social media or visit our website www.sunshine-support.org. If you are a Sunshine Academy member, drop us a message in the community section. We also hold in-person and virtual cuppa and chats, where you can meet and talk to people on the same page as you. Details can be found on our socials or our website. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you again soon.